Ahoy there, Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another video for Infinite Lagrange. This video has been sponsored by NetEase, and if you're worried about what that means for my content, please check the link to my Discord in the description below. I have put a public release statement out there. Now, in today's video, I'm continuing my little series of looking at certain ships from the Infinite Lagrange lineup. Today, we're going to be looking at one of the fighters, the B192 Newland. This appears to have had sort of a renaissance recently, or at least it has in the union I'm in. A lot of people seem to be sort of unlocking these and asking how good they actually are, so I thought I would actually talk about them, because they are by far one of my favourite fighters that I've unlocked, and there's a very, very good reason for that, as we'll talk about in just a moment. Now, if you are enjoying this content, let me know by hitting a like on it, sub to the channel for all things Infinite Lagrange, and if you do want to go the extra mile to help support the channel, do make sure to check out both the Patreon page and the Redbubble merchandise store, both linked in the description down below. Now, as I said, in today's video we're going to be looking at the B192. This is a fighter, so of course I am assuming you have something like, for example, the Predator that can launch these actually into the air. I'm actually tending to launch these out of my series, because again, you may know that I'm running sort of themed fleets at the moment, where I'm trying to have every ship in the fleet from the same sort of manufacturer, whether it's Jupiter Industries, the Noma Shipping Group, or the Antonius Consortium. So of course, if I want to be launching aircraft that are Jupiter Industries, it makes sense to have a Jupiter Industries aircraft launcher, in this case the Series Destroyer. Now, aircraft are fairly unique. A lot of them have a lot of crossover with different roles. Now here, the B192 Newland, it's described as a heavy attacker, and when we go into its combat roles, you'll see here it says, utilizes its 80mm cannon to conduct precision strikes against enemy ships, whilst also dealing damage to enemy subsystems. It's equipped with anti-aircraft combat missiles, and is able to mount effective counterstrikes against incoming aircraft. It's a fighter, an aircraft unit capable of attacking ships and their weapon systems, and the roles are against enemy ships' systems, and that's kind of the dirty thing we're going to be talking about here. The thing is, a lot of people tend to unlock this, and the first thing they do is just compare its stats side by side with other things that they've unlocked. So if, for example, if you were looking at the Newland straight out of the gate here, and looking at its basic anti-air, you're looking at 780 basic air damage, whereas if we were to compare that, for example, to the Spore, well, that's 664 straight out the gate, with a whole load of additional things that are designed to sort of take out aircraft. And so the conversation tends to go, well, why would I use the Newland instead of the Spore if I want anti-aircraft? And why would I use, the Newland instead of the Strix if I wanted anti-ship? What with the Strix being absolutely amazing with its laser cannons, it's doing high energy damage there. Not a lot of ships have energy resistance. Why would I go for the Newland instead of either of those? Well, there's the kind of obvious middle ground answer that you could say that, okay, well, yeah, sure, they're a better anti-aircraft and they're a better anti-ship. But the Newland, on the other hand, does both of those, perhaps not as well as either thing on paper, but it does give you that sort of mixed bag. But no, the truth here really comes down to its abilities against enemy subsystems, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. Its main weapon system is a heavy battery. This is, again, you'll see here, destroyer, frigate, and cruiser, and it says attacks against primary weapon. It has a chance to deal additional damage to the target's primary weapon system. If we come and actually have a look at the enhancements, you'll see that a lot of these are straight up damage enhancements: hit rate, cannon damage, attack intervals, so it stays there in combat longer, decreases weapon system cooldown. There is a fast target lock, there's also the weapon system cooldown there, and it has prioritized dogfights. Now this I really don't rate. I've tried this. When attacked by enemy aircraft, increases attack duration by 50% for 40 seconds, cooldown of 20 seconds. A combat strategy to prioritize dogfights when harassed by enemy interceptors, and I don't get why you would ever really enhance with this, because the Newland's abilities just don't really work as an anti-aircraft ship. It has that capability, so if you are getting harangued by aircraft, the Newland can join in, but it is by far that ability to shoot down enemy systems that works really, really well. Its other weapon here is the small missile system here, the AM-600, part of its anti-aircraft missile system. This prioritizes corvettes and fighters and is where your anti-aircraft damage all comes from. And again, you'll see here, you've got the ability to increase weapon system damage against aerial targets, increases missile torpedo damage, increases hit rate, cooldown, and again, dedicated hit rates there, higher percentage hit rate, but against specific targets. And you'll see that these are really quite nice and that they are one-use unlocks. You just pay your 3 enhancement points and you get that full ability itself. But no, what I'm trying to get at here, what I've been alluding to, what I really want to talk about is that absolutely insane ability for the Newland to target systems. That is an incredibly potent ability. Now, yeah, you can sit there and say, well, okay, the damage isn't as good as perhaps a fully upgraded Strix might be. But then you look at the fact that the Newland is attacking directly your enemy's systems, and it does appear to be a little bit misleading here. The heavy battery itself has this attack against primary weapon, has a chance to deal additional damage to the target's primary weapon system, so it sounds like, oh, all it's doing is attacking the primary weapon system, and that's not entirely true. It has a chance to pick any subsystem on the enemy ship, I've noticed. And certainly here the damage is better if it's going against a primary weapon. And remember, different systems have different amounts of hit points. So for example, if we were to scroll up here and have a look at the Io, another Jupiter Industries ship, and its Vigan ion cannon system, you'll notice if we have a look at the system info here, it has 7,000 EHP, 7,000 effective hit points there. Now, if a Newland is attacking this, there is a chance that the Newland is going to lock onto that Vigan dual-fire ion cannon, and it is just going to blow that up. Now, if you look here, the damage here from the Io Assault Ion Cannon Cruiser is 20,592. Now, if along comes a Newland and blows that up in a few seconds because of the damage they can output compared to the HP here of the Io's weapon system, then it's going to lose that 20,000 effective damage, which means suddenly the Io would have gone from 27,000 all the way down to 7,000. You have absolutely neutered your enemy's capability of dealing damage to your fleet, and that's the same with other ships as well. I've just picked the Io as one straight off the bat, but we've looked at the Quawa recently. Again, my integrated railgun system here, that's currently doing 20,853 damage, and if they take out that bow-mounted railgun, well, I'm suddenly left with just the railgun turrets, which is just nowhere near as much damage, and I could drop all of the damage that this ship is capable of doing. And in fact, if a ship has only one weapon system and the Newland does destroy it, well, that enemy ship is now basically a floating brick in space. It's not actually doing anything anymore, so who cares if the Newland takes a while to kill it? It's utterly useless just drifting in space, not doing anything else to the rest of your fleet. But the true beauty of this is, well, again, let's come out. Sorry, I'm jumping a lot between these, I know. If we were to go back, for example, and look at the Quawa and its different systems, of course we've got the integrated railgun system that could be targeted, we've got armor system, propulsion system, but energy system, we also have the command system. Now the command system here is the bridge on the Quawa, and that is a 5,500 hit point subsystem. Yes, bridges can be targeted. I have watched a Newland destroy an entire battle cruiser that it's targeted because there wasn't much else around, and that battle cruiser has disappeared with over 60% of its health remaining because the bridge has been targeted and destroyed. If the bridge is destroyed, the entire ship goes down instantly, and that is where the Newland becomes an absolutely monstrous little fighter. Rather than just dealing damage, it's targeting specific weapon systems, specific subsystems. If it targets a weapon, it can very quickly neuter an enemy ship's actual combat potential, and if it's lucky enough to target the bridge and destroy that, well, you can take out some incredibly powerful ships frighteningly quickly, just thanks to destroying that tiny little subsystem. Who cares if, like, a ship's got 20,000 hit points? If the bridge has 5,000 and you take that out, well, that's the entire ship gone. This is an absolute beast of a ship, and that combined with the series has just done so well in my Jupiter Industries fleet. Certainly, of course, I've gone for the series here. This means I'm going to be upgrading all of the abilities here for those Newlands. Reduces the return to battle cooldown of aircraft because I wanted to get out there quickly. I'm performing emergency repairs when they come back because as soon as they land, if they've taken any damage, I want them to be able to repair that damage and get back out into the field without them being destroyed, and I've improved the hit rate. But some of the other things you could go for: target lock-on speed, reducing the chance to be hit by other things, or increasing the damage. I just didn't think there was much need for evasion. These are pretty evasive little ships anyway, the Newlands. The hit chance was pretty good as well. Lock-on speed seems to be okay. And as for damage, again, damage doesn't matter. Damage doesn't really matter. You're going to be taking out those subsystems faster, sure, but the point is you're taking out those subsystems. Now, I love the Newland. To me, this has become one of my favourite little aircraft to fly, to the point that I have other aircraft built, but they're just not actually in use in any of my fleets. Even the Spores and things like that, they just don't see much use in that Jupiter Industries fleet anymore. And when I was doing sort of generic fleets and sort of mixing and matching, I was still using the Newland rather than the Strix A100 or the Sandrakes and the SC002s and things like that. So I'm thoroughly enjoying the Newlands. Please do let me know what you think of those. Is this a ship that you've unlocked? Have you been flying Newlands? Have you had any particularly funny stories with them, taking out something far above their weight? Please let me know all that and more in the comment section down below. And again, if you are enjoying these little videos I'm putting out, looking at individual ships that I'm enjoying using and just talking about them that way, please let me know, especially if there is a particular ship you would like me to cover in a future video. Otherwise, folks, thank you very much for listening to this one right the way to the end. Happy sailing, and see you in Infinite Lagrange!